Welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you the first thing you should work on if you're interested in starting to play fingerpicking style guitar, fingerstyle guitar, or fingerpicking. The very first thing I think that we should work on, whether you're starting from scratch or you came from strumming with a pick or just wanting to get going with the right hand, this pattern called the outside in pattern or outside inside pattern I think is the best one to do. And if you're playing some chords already, great, because then you can test it out with some chords. But even if you're not, this is the place to start. So the outside inside pattern, this comes from a style of fingerpicking called Travis picking, and it's the foundation for a bunch of other really cool sounding and can get very complex fingerpicking patterns that can get quite complex and very cool sounding and very popular, widely used in a lot of songwriting. This alone though sounds really good, and there's variations that we can use that we can do with it. So we're gonna play a bass line. Now all of this style, the fingerpicking in this kind of Travis picking style, there's a bass line going that is just consistent, okay? So in this case, we're gonna play the low E and the D string. This is your bass line. It's just going like this all the time. So it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I did a video just a bit ago about bossa nova accompaniment pattern. Same deal. It's just on the 1 and the 3. So you can just thinking of that thumb being your separate bass player. Okay, the outside inside aspect is that you're going to play the thumb, the bass note, which doesn't change with a whole series of fingerpicking patterns. It doesn't change. You're going to play the outside note, and we're going to be playing 6th string, 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string. So we're skipping the A string, 5th string. We're skipping the 1st string, the E string. For now, we're not using either of those. We're going to play in just the way I'm showing it to you. We'll play it on any strings in the future. So low string, and then your thumb is going. Okay, so the outside note is your highest note, your B string. Okay, so you got thumb, outside note, thumb, inside note. And that's why it's called that. So really you could say thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index. Thumb, middle on string 2, thumb, index on string 3. Here's your pattern. This is the outside in or outside inside. And this is done a lot with muting a bass line, but I often do it without that. Okay, so as far as adding a chord to it, just hold this note on the 3rd fret of the lowest string. This creates a complete G chord. Okay, usually think of a G like this. You're not playing this string and you're not playing this string. So I don't want you to hold that unless you're gonna play those notes. Don't hold down notes that you're not playing. If you're gonna start fingerpicking, that's a big thing to watch out for. Don't hold chords just like you usually would if you're not actually plucking one of the notes, okay? So this is your G chord right now. Unless we're gonna add that top string or that 5th string, which we might want to later, but for now we're not. Okay, outside, inside, bass, outside, bass, inside, bass, outside, bass. Okay, so that's as a G chord. Let's do another 6-string rooted chord. Any 6-string rooted chord, you're going to use those 4 strings rather. You're not using the 5th string or skipping the 5th string. We're not using the top string. So any 6-string rooted chord. So if you're playing an E chord, okay, you would hold an E like this usually, but we're not playing this string. You're going to let go of that note, so you can kind of address that however you want with those notes. Here's your E. If it's an E minor, you're just only playing this note. If it's an E7, where you usually think of an E and you lift off this note, and that's an E7, you actually don't need this for the pattern, and you already lifted off that other note. Here's an E7. Okay, if you're playing up here on a full bar chord, you don't need this note. Here's A7. Okay, so any 6-string rooted chord, you're gonna use those strings. If you have a 5th string rooted chord, like just our friendly A minor chord, the middle 4 strings are what we're gonna use. So the top 3 that we were using before, strings 4, 3, and 2, stay the same. and we have our thumb now playing string 5, 4, 5, 4. Okay? So what if I want to go between G and A minor? Okay, so here's a really tricky part of this. This is the right hand thing you're gonna, get used to, and that's gonna feel good. And practice that even just with open strings if you want to get used to that. Here's a really tricky part of this switching chords thing that I want you to pay attention to. And I actually talked about this in a video a while ago. I think it was called like the secret to solo guitar playing or something like that. It's a solo guitar technique where you want to put your finger down as you need the note. Very difficult, very important, very helpful. Once you get used to it, though, it actually makes things a lot easier because you don't have to go, jumping, jolting. It's actually much harder in a lot of ways and worse for our tension and our technique to jump to chords. So it takes kind of some planning, some coordination, some thinking, some ingraining extra habits, but it can make it so smooth. So we had kind of ringing and overlap, and it made it nice and smooth. So that's going to be the hardest part about this, but keep that in mind and try to work on this with various chord progressions. If you go, C is going to be your middle 4 strings. I actually lifted off a little and put that note back down, that second fret on the 4th string, just so I wasn't kind of keeping tension with it, but either way, I put this finger down as I needed it. So if we're going to play off the 4th string, where the root is the 4th string, then we play the top 4 strings. So if you're playing a D chord, then same pattern, bass, outside bass, inside bass, outside bass, inside. How to make this without changing the pattern, because there's other cool patterns that you can take from there, but just to add variety to this, if you wanted to start doing that, let's take a C chord. Yeah, C chord's fine. We're gonna take a C chord. Well, for one thing, you can just start moving around notes kind of anywhere you want. I was adding a melody note there just since my finger's there. But you can replace this top note that you're playing with your M finger with the next string up, if we're playing on the 6th string rooted or 5th string rooted. So like on a C chord or a G chord, or I'll just play open E up there. I change the pattern. I'm using my A finger, my ring finger, but a lot of people will just do only these 3 fingers. I'm alternating 2nd string, 1st string, 2nd string, 1st string. This pinky's free. I might go. Playing around with it. Now I'm adding melody and I'm changing strings now and all that stuff. One other thing you can do to switch it up quite a bit, and I know I'm kind of just throwing things out there, that initial thing of just that simple right hand pattern on a couple chords is a great place to start. I just want to kind of inspire you with like what would be next if you wanted to start playing with more stuff. Okay, another embellishment kind of to add to it is to alternate your bass note. So you're going to go bass, 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 lower bass. This only works in certain places, but if you're playing on the 5th string at all, just go down to the same fret on the 6th string. So we think of this like that kind of sound, right? So on that A minor there, you're going to get the ringing of those two together, unless you're going to do this muting technique, which is actually sounds cool anyway, but it's a lot of times why it's done, or it's why I do it anyway. So I can avoid that ringing. It's not so bad though, because those notes are both in the chord, but it's a little muddy versus. So notice how even just this very first simple pattern, if you think of a couple of those embellishments like that bass note alternating or adding a melody note by just moving it, moving one of your fingers that is holding a note, or switching strings by adding that top note up to the high string instead of the second string. So much you can do with it. And plus, not to mention just trying it with all your chords, all different chords you might know, and trying to switch smoothly like I was talking about. So sometimes it's a bit of a puzzle. So don't overthink it too much, but just think, did I put something down too early? And can I smooth that out a little bit? It's okay that it's kind of different all the time. So if I play from G to E7, I don't need that note until the last of the 4 in the pattern. So if you go to it early and it doesn't sound bad and you're fine and you're relaxed, it's not the end of the world. But these are the kinds of things to be mindful of. How much control do we have over it? So I'm just kind of like experimenting around, but you could kind of create an arrangement for yourself pretty quickly if you start liking certain aspects of it, or of course chipping away at a specific song progression that you're working on and really planning, okay, here's how I'm going to make that movement from chord to chord to chord. So that's it for now for this, just really that one pattern, that outside-inside pattern, and then a couple ideas for how to mix it up and how to think about switching chords with it. If you want to play finger-picking guitar, I think it's a good first step. It's also quite a lot to work on, so that very first step is just that initial pattern with just one chord and maybe a chord off the 6th, a chord off the 5th, and a chord off the 4th string roots to get yourself started. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope to see you in another lesson in the future, and happy practicing.